president has made very clear that he would like them to all reopen. Has he and the First Lady decided whether Barron will come back?
Oh, that's a personal decision. I don't know what Barron School has decided, and I certainly don't know what the first couple has decided with respect to their teenage son, who I believe is entering high school this year. I have 2 kids in Maryland also in private schools, and I think we're just waiting to see what those schools say. So far, we're told we're going back in a school not far away from his, the end of August, and we're waiting to see if that happens. And I think that we also recognize that not all school districts are the same. I mean, not all the hot spots are the same. So there is no one size fits all, except to say that what we do know about kids is that on balance, they thrive better when they're in a structured, safe environment like our schools, our school days. We certainly know the statistics where the mental health services, the child abuse reporting, the meal delivery, the ability to interact with an adult eyeball to eyeball, and then, of course, to get a quality education, all are done better in person in the classroom or outside. I think some of these places are getting, I was with Secretary DeVos in my office last night for quite a while talking about some of the best practices we're hearing from around the country. Some folks are saying, let's just do more outside instruction, get the kids with nature. Also, maybe 3 days on, 2 days off. But these parents need certainty also. With the president is successfully being the president for the forgotten man, forgotten woman, but also the forgotten child very much in our sight. So I think you'll continue to hear from this White House, Wasia, about how to safely reopen the schools. But we also want to hear from the school districts because they are making the decision also.
In other words, when it's everyone else's kid, Trump and the White House have no problem issuing a presidential proclamation hereby decreeing that all students should be sent back to schools. But when it's his own kid, well, then suddenly look. That's a very complex and personal decision that must be left up to the parents. In other words, to put it bluntly, Trump is fine sending everyone else's child into harm's way by forcing them to go to school in the middle of a raging pandemic, and yet when it comes time to put his own child in harm's way, suddenly there's nuance. Suddenly they're not willing to commit to anything, and that should tell you everything you need to know. I should note too that Kellyanne Conway here says that there's no one-size-fits-all strategy. And yet right now, the president and Betsy DeVos are both demanding that American children go back to school. Not that every situation should be looked at individually, just that all children should be back in the classroom immediately. And don't take it from me, take it from them.
Yeah, schools should be opened. Schools should be opened. If these kids want to go to school, you're losing a lot of lives by keeping things closed. We did the right thing. We saved millions of lives.
I am urging all schools to open and to be providing their students a full-time education.
Funny how there's no nuance when it comes to your kids, huh? Kellyanne also says that kids thrive when they're in structured, safe environments like schools. And normally, she'd be right. But the middle of a pandemic is not a normal situation, and certainly doesn't qualify as safe, so her entire argument here is self-defeating. If Trump really believed that sending kids back to school was safe, of all people, he would have made a big show of sending his own kid, because the guy will exploit anything and anyone for personal gain. But he won't, and that's because he knows that there's an inherent risk to sending children to school right now, and that's not a risk he's willing to commit to. Because while the White House pretends that children are immune to coronavirus, they're not. In reality, CDC figures show that 6% of the nation's confirmed cases have been among people 17 years old and younger. And in fact, 171 people under the age of 24 have died from coronavirus. So it might fit their political narrative to pretend that there's nothing to worry about by packing hundreds of thousands of American children into classrooms in the fall, but per usual, nothing they say is backed up by the facts. By the way, they're not doing it because they value education. This administration has leveraged a sustained attack on public education in this country since the day Betsy DeVos was confirmed. They're doing it because opening schools lends itself to Trump's narrative that everything is totally back to normal and completely reopened. It's optics. He's willing to sacrifice your kids so that he can continue to perpetuate the same denialism that got us into this mess in the first place. Think about it. Since day one, Trump has spent every waking minute pretending the outbreak didn't exist. He said it was contained, that it would go away with the heat, that cases would soon be down to zero, that anyone who wants a test can get a test, that there was enough PPE. The excuses went on and on. And those excuses are why we never got any actual solutions. They're why we don't have a nationwide testing and contact tracing system, or enough PPE, or a nationwide mask mandate, or stay-at-home orders. Because Trump spent that precious time instead lying about the virus so that the optics would be good for him as we headed into the November election. And now he's doing it again. only using American children this time. He's throwing your children under the metaphorical school bus so that he can try and will into existence this false reality that everything is back to normal, when clearly it's not. So Trump and his mouthpieces like Kellyanne will continue to try and gaslight you, but if you want to know how they really feel, consider the fact that they never actually follow their own advice, and that should speak volumes. And don't forget to listen to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll take a deep dive into the biggest issues of the week and interview major players in the world of politics, like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, and many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, available anywhere you listen to podcasts.